Okay, hi, welcome to MTech. This is our second lesson on disk management, and kindly don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video too. Thank you very much. So, this is our second lesson on disk management, and we have previously I've already taught you how to configure basic or simple volume and also understand certain concepts about disks. So kindly, if this is your first video that you're watching on this lesson, kindly go back and watch the first lesson so that you can get every concept and all the understanding before we can proceed with this particular lesson. So in this lesson, we are going to continue with dynamic disk management. Dynamic disk management. In the previous lesson, we got to know that we have two main types of disk configuration status. So we discussed about basic disk and dynamic disk, and I explained basic disk and I explained dynamic disk. Kindly go back to the first lesson to understand this, because I'm not going back to explain all these things because it's already there. It's in the it's in the first lesson. So kindly go back to the first lesson and watch it over and over again. If there is any question, the comment section is there. Just put your question there. I will definitely reply you. All right. So moving on to the dynamic disk management, we got to know that we have these types of dynamic volumes. So creating the dynamic volumes, we have types of them that you can decide to create. So we have the span, we have the strip, we have the mirrored, and we have the read file. These are the four types or the four kinds of dynamic volumes. Also, we also link dynamic volumes to read arrays, which is a separate lesson altogether, which are also where that lesson is going to come up. So stay tuned and keep on checking to the channel. More videos are coming up, more lessons are coming up. So the span volume, the strip view, the mirrored volume, the read file forms read array, also known as dynamic volumes. As I'll take them one after the other to explain so that you can get the understanding or can get the concept of it. And also, we are going to take our time in terms of the configuration. So it's not only about theory. We also show you how to create a span volume, a strip volume, and mirror. But before that, we need to pass through them, then understand how we can create them. The last one, which is read 5, is going to take out of this lesson. Read 5 will come in a server administration management, which also is also another lesson altogether. So there are more lessons coming. As I keep on saying, more videos coming up. So kindly stay tuned. Okay. Now, what is a span volume? So basically, when we talk about span volume, we are talking about the combination of areas unallocated space from multiple disks into one logical volume, which allowing you to more efficiently use all of the space and all of the drive letters on the multiple disk system. This simply means that if you want to configure span volume, initially, initially, if you have, let's say you have two hard drives, you have disk 1 and disk 2. There's no way you can bring a free space on disk 1 and disk 2 together and combine them. It's not possible. But with span volume, that is after you've converted your hard drive to dynamic, this is where you can create span volume. So if your hard drives are not in dynamic states, there's no way you can configure span volume or any of the volumes you are talking about. So first of all, keep in mind that before you can create a span volume or any of the dynamic volumes, your hard drive must be a dynamic disk. That means you have already converted into dynamic disk before all of this thing can proceed. So when you have not if you have not converted your hard drive into a dynamic disk and it's in basic disk, and you have two hard drives, disk 1 and disk 0, and let's say disk 1 is having a free space of 100 gig, disk 2 is having a free space of 20 gig, there is no way that you can combine the 100 from disk 1 and 20 gig from disk 2 together to make 128. That it can happen because you're using basic disk. But in the case of dynamic disk, it's much possible. So we will configure it so that you see how it works. Yes. So with span volume, we see that it enables the ability to add a free space from one hard disk to another. As I said, that is bringing on unallocated space. When we say unallocated space, it's a space or a free space on your hard disk which has not been touched, meaning that it has not been prepared. You have not created any partition on that particular space. Yes, when we get into the configuration, I will definitely show you how the what unallocated space looks like. Now, to configure any of the span volume, sorry, any of the dynamic volumes, you need to have a minimum of two hard disks, a minimum of two hard drives. So in your physical computer or in your disk enclosure, the minimum drive that physically you need to have in them before you can proceed with any of these dynamic volumes is two hard drives, two hard drives. Then span volume is not regarded as fault tolerance. When we say fault tolerance, it simply means that if the hard drive is involved, if my data, if any of the hard drives goes down, I can still have my data back. Span volume is not like that. Span volume does not actually provide us with fault tolerance. What span volume enables us to do is that you having the capability or the ability to be able to pick unallocated space from one disk and another disk, then putting them together to create a volume or a drive so that data can be kept on it. That is so. With the picture over here, you can see that I have let me see if I can get this pointer so that you can view what I'm doing. Let me get a pointer right now. Pointer laser. Okay, so you can see that this is disk, that's disk 0. We have disk 1, disk 2, and disk 3. Now, as I said in the previous lesson, I said that when you are about to do configuration for these dynamic volumes or any of them, your disk 0 is not part of the configuration. So always remember that the first disk which contain your operating system is not part of the configuration. So when I'm saying two hard drives, this one is not part. The minimum of the two hard disks, your disk 0 is not part. It's rather disk 1, disk 2, and disk 3. So the later hard drive that you are going to insert or to place in the hard drive, these are the hard drive that you are going to work with, not with the disk 0. The first hard drive that contains your operating system is out of the equation. You can't add it. It's not recommended and it's not advisable. You can't even use it. So you place that one somewhere. Now we have disk 1 here, disk 2 here, disk 3 here, because the minimum is 2, so you can go more than 2. So disk 1, assuming that disk 1 is having a free space of 500 megabytes and disk 2 is having a free space of 750, and disk 3 also the same thing, 750 megabytes. With span volume, you'll be able to combine all the free space to create a new volume, like a drive, like drive D, drive X, drive C, and place data in it or keep your data in it. That's the concept of expand volume. So I can see, as you can see over here, the diagram is showing you three hard drives, physical hard disks, which each of them is having some unallocated space or free space on each. And now with the ability of the span volume, it has been able to put them together to create a new volume. So that's the actual concept of our span volume. Now let's move on to the next volume, which is a strip volume. So the strip volume combines areas of free space from multiple hard drives into one logical volume. That is from anywhere from 2 to 32 hard drives into one logical volume. That's a strip. Now strip, let's the requirements. So there must be at least two hard drives, as I said. Small computers interface, that's iSCSI, IDE, or mixed architecture is also permitted. That is, if you have SATA, you have SATA drives, you have PATA drives, you have SSDs, you can also use these guys to configure your strip volume. So all disks involved in the strip volume must be dynamic disk. Earlier on I said it, so that you have to convert all your hard drive from basic to dynamic before you can even configure any of the dynamic volumes, not just stripped, spanned, stripped, mirrored, RAID 5. Your hard disk must be converted from basic to what? To dynamic. Each portion of the free space must be exactly the same. So in strip volume, if we are taking a particular you are taking a particular free space from one particular hard drive, the same free space. So let's say that here is the first hard disk over here is 500 megabytes. You have to take 500 megabytes from the second, 500 megabytes from the third. So the sizes, the free spaces that are going to be taken from each of the hard drive must be the same or equal. That is the rule or the requirements or the properties of strip volume. So in if we're talking about RAID arrays, strip volume will be RAID 0, which I said we will get there to RAID arrays. Then I'll explain that one too. So this, looking at this particular diagram, you can see that the whole of this is disk 1, this one is disk 2, physical disk 2, physical disk 3. Now when a data, if I take some portion free space from disk 1, free space from disk 2, and free space from disk 3, let's say, so here's 100 megabytes, 100 megabytes, 100 megabytes over here. So I have in total size of 300 megabytes. Yes, I can create a drive, I can create a volume. Now if I put any data into that volume, it's going to strip itself onto this. So you can see that here is A1. So A1 is like a data that has been kept or has been put into the volume. So here is A1. So it's the same data which has been stripped. So we have A1, A2, A3. So let's say you have a file size of 6 megabytes. So 6 megabytes will be stripped. It will strip according to the physical hard drives involved in the configuration. So here it will be A1, A2, A3. That is your 6 megabyte data will be stripped or will be divided among the physical hard disks involved in the configuration. That is it. So the same thing with the B1, the B2, the B3 up to the D1, the D2, and the D3. The same thing is data, but the data, it is not saved on one particular hard disk, but all the hard drives that are involved in the configuration. So we have some part of the data here, some part here, and some part here. The same thing applies to the B1, C1, and the D1. Now in this case, if any of the hard disks involved in the configuration goes down, it goes down, all your data is gone, because it is a strip, it is stripping without parity. So the data over here, the data on your volume, let's say is volume K, after taking 100 megabytes from each of the hard disks, creating 300 megabytes which you are keeping your data in, that particular data inside the volume K, if any of the hard disks gets crashed or failed, that is it. All your data on drive K will cannot be retrieved, because the disk, your data has been stripped or has been divided among the hard drive involved in the configuration. That is for the strip volume. Now let's move on to the mirrored. So mirrored is very straightforward. Mirrored is straightforward. With mirrored is a fault tolerant volume that duplicates your data onto 2 or more physical hard drives. So unlike that of the strip volume, mirrored does not actually strip, but this time around it duplicates or it copies itself. So we have block 1 and block 2, block 3, block 3 here, block 4 here, block 4 here. It is disk 1 and disk 2. So telling you that if you put a data in within a particular volume, which these two hard drives are involved, there will be a duplication, or there will be a copy of the data. So there's no kind of stripping. So with mirrored, it provides for tolerance, duplicate data across hard disks involved. The minimum of it is also 2 hard disks. So here we have disk 1 and we have disk 2. You get it? So if I have a free space on disk 1 which is 20 megabytes, it's supposed to be the same thing. If I want to configure mirror, I have to take 20 megabytes from here, put them together to create a volume of 40 megabytes. Now that 40 megabytes, if I put any data in it, it's going to duplicate itself onto the hard drive that I took the free space from. So this is a physical hard drive. The logical volume is the 2020 megabyte that you have taken from this physical hard drive and created a volume like volume D, volume K, or drive C, drive J. So anything that you put in drive J will be doubled or will be duplicated onto the hard drive. It will be they'll be spread, but this time around is the same data which will be copied to this drive, and the same data will also be copied to this particular hard disk. Yes, that is it. So that is so in here, if you were talking about RAID arrays, mirrored is RAID 1. So we will definitely dive into RAID arrays as well. All right, so guys, let's jump into our virtual machine since okay guys, so we're continue from um the configuration of the dynamic volumes. We are going to look at how to configure all the dynamic volumes. That's it. So this is a VMware workstation running Windows 10. You can use Windows 8, Server 12, Server 16, Server 19, Server 20, 20 any of the Windows operating system support what we are about to do. So here, first of all, let's run our command. That is computer management.mcsc. Computer management, that's compmgmt.msc. Then we say okay to it. So it will take some few minutes for this guy to pop up. Okay, so whilst this guy is about to run, first of all, let's see, there's only one hard drive in the virtual machine, only one hard disk. So we need to add another hard disk, and this one being the virtual machine, you can simply add a hard disk. And the hard disk we can add as many as we want because it's a virtual machine. That's the beauty of virtualization technology. Is really helpful when it comes to things like this. Okay, so loading disk configuration information. So wait for some time for this guy to load. That's the beauty of virtualization, but it also has its own disadvantages. It has its own disadvantages, but let's wait for it. Let's wait for it. Within a second or two, we got to see this guy over here. All right, so as we are waiting for the disk to display, disk management to display, we can add our hard drive. So as I showed you in the previous lesson, to add the hard disk, yes, to add the hard disk, we come to, so over here, thank you very much. So over here you can see that we have only disk 0, we don't have disk 1, so we need to get disk 1. We need to get disk 1 and disk 2. So I'm going to add 2 more hard drive types over here. I'm going to add 2 more hard disks over here. So I'll right click on the computer name and come to settings. Then in settings, I'll come to add here. Then I'll go to hard disks and come to next. Then I'll choose either SCSI or SATA. The two guys have been faded out because the virtual machine is still running, so you can't add ID or NVMe. So I'll choose SATA, then I'll move to next. Then choose the option create a new virtual disk, go to next. Then over here I'll say that I'll type 30 gig, store it as a single file, then next, then finish. Now I'll click on OK. Alright, so you can see that we have our hard disk, first hard disk, because I said the disk 0 is not part of the configuration. So how our first hard disk over here, which is 30 gig, and it has been uninitialized, and the disk is unknown for now. So let's go back. Let's add the second hard disk. So I'll come to the computers name, I click on it and come to settings. From here we'll come down to add, then choose hard disk, move to next, choose SATA and go to next. Maintain, create a new virtual disk and move to next. Then when you get here, you click on, or you check store disk as a single file. Then you come to the size, a specified size of, let's give this guy also 30 gigs, so 30, and I'll move to next and finish. Okay, so beautiful. We have our two hard drives here, the disk 1 and disk 2. So at the normal circumstance, this is what we have to do. First of all, we have to initialize it. So you right click on it here, then come to initialize disk. Then we can decide to initialize the two of them together, or we can decide to do it one after the other. Let me do one after the other so that you see how it works. So I'll check this disk 2, then partition style, as we discussed in the previous lesson. You know partition style, so GPT, MBR, they all work perfectly. You have to know the difference. So after that, then I will initialize the second disk. So I right click, come to initialize disk, then choose MBR or GPT, any of them. Then I'll say okay. Okay. So now we have our two unallocated. So this is the meaning of unallocated space. That's the disk 1, disk 2. You can see that here in disk 1 there is blank space, here too is blank, and that is unallocated. That is what the key is saying. It's unallocated. It's a bare land. Nothing has been done on the land, so it becomes unallocated. Great. Now with disk 1, which we start from creating our span volume. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take out of the 30 gig, I'm going to take only 2 gig from disk 1 and then 1 gig from disk 2 to make it 3 gig and create a span volume. So this is how we configure a span volume. So I click on disk 1. Before that, don't forget, before that we have to convert disk 1 to dynamic. So I click on it and come to dynamic disk and choose this time I'm choosing disk 2 altogether, and I'll go to OK. So now disk 1 and disk 2 is now dynamic, as the indication says over here. It's not dynamic. That is it. Okay. So I right click on the disk 1, right click on it and come to new span volume. New span volume. So I'll click on new span volume. So the wizard, there's span volume wizards will tell you that this helps you to create a span volume on disk. A span volume is made up of disk space on more than one disk. Create a span volume if you need a volume that is too large for a single disk. You can extend the span volume by adding a free space to the hard disk. So that is, I've already explained what a span disk is. So move to next. Then we will get to where, so this place at here, you can see we have selected disk 2, then we have disk 1 available. So I'll click on disk 1 and I come to add, so that I'll add it to the configuration that I'm about to do. Then here on disk 1, I'll come to select the amount of space in a megabyte. So I said I want to take 2 megabytes, 2 gig. So I'll type 248, that is 2 gig in in megabyte. Then I'll click on disk 2. So on disk 1, I'm taking a free space of 2 gig. Then on disk 2, I'm taking a free space of 1 gig. Okay, so you can see that disk 1 is 2 gig, that's 248 megabytes, and disk 2 is 124, that's 1 gig. Alright, so this is what this is what the system is going to use. So the system will add DIX1. It will take only 248 megabytes and DIX2 128 megabytes, put them together to create a volume. So that's what we're about to do. So I'll move to next. Then when we get here, is assign of a drive letter. Then we can also mount into an empty NTFS folder, which we will have a lesson to pick all this, all other configuration. So drive G here, then we move to next. Now when we get to the formatting, that's the changing of file system. I'm maintaining my NTFS. Then the volume label, I'm going to call it span. Then I'll click on perform quick format. I'm only going to compress for now. So I'll move to next. Then click on finish. So it is working behind scenes. Then so yes, we have expand volume. So DIX1, you see that it's 2 gig, DIX2 is 1 gig. So I took 2 gig from DIX1 and 1 gig from DIX2 to create expand volume. So you can see the indication over here. And we still have 3 more space left because it was just 2 gig. So 2 and 1 gig. So we have more free space left. That is it. So that's the configuration of expand volume. Now let's move on to strip volume. So you still using DIX1 and DIX2. I'll select DIX2. I'll select the one with the least space. That is the DIX1. So I click on the unallocated space, not at where you've configured your span, but at the blank space, the black where there's a black indication here. So I'll right click here and come to strip volume. Then I'll move to next. So here we have DIX1 selected, and DIX2 is available. So if you have more than one hard drive, all the hard disks will be available. So which of the hard drives do you want to use in your configuration? So I'm taking DIX1, definitely. I have only 2 options, DIX1, DIX2. So DIX1, first of all, before I bring DIX1, I will type 2 gig here. So 248. Then when I finish, I'll click on DIX1 and come to add. And you can see that automatically DIX2 has taken the same 2 gig from DIX1 that I specified earlier, just right now. So that is it. So in strip and mirror, equal size of free space must be taken, or yes, must be assigned. You can't assign 2 gig here for DIX1 and you see the span volume where because that's span, but for mirror and strip you can't do that. Take note of this. So I'll move to next. Click on next. Then assign a relative E. Let me maintain that one. Next. Then here to the file system is here. Default allocation size unit. That's the creation of the sectors. So you allow it to be on default. The system should create its own sectors. Then the new volume over here, I'll make this guy. I'll type strip. So it's a strip volume. Then I'll perform a quick format and move to next and click on finish. So it's working on the background, trying to put them together. Great. So we have a strip volume here, strip volume drive E, and expand volume drive G. Now let's take the last one, which is mirror. So I'll quickly right click. So always make sure that you are using the one with the least space. I'm talking about the free space left. So I click here at the blank side, then come to mirror, move to next, then specify here. This time around I'm going to be little, that is 10 gig 12400. Then I'll come here and add the DIX2. So automatically it has taken that. So let me type again 124.024.0. That's 10 gig. So 10 gig has been taken from DIX1 and DIX2. That is it. So I'll move to next. Assign a drive later. Perform quick formats. So this one definitely is going to be the last guy, which is mirror. So mirrored volume is here. Then I'll move to next. Then I'll click on finish. So working on the background, working on the background. Great. So here, these are now volumes. They are volumes. Partition at the same time volumes. So I have a span volume, which is disk1, disk2 is involved. Strip disk1, disk2, mirror disk1 and disk2. So here is 2 gig, 1 gig, 2 gig, 2 gig, 10 gig, 10 gig. Now let's confirm this by going to this PC. So you can see that we have all the volumes here, So in Mirror, if I put any data, let me position this thing so that I can have the explanation. Position it well. Okay, great. So with the mirrored over here, this volume, if I put any data in this volume, this data is going to copy itself onto disk1 and disk2. So the size that I've specified, the 1010 gig, is what is going to be used in keeping of the data. You get it? So if any data is being kept over here, it will duplicate itself. So let me minimize this and see the thing proper. So you can see that we have the thing. So if it's 4 gig will come here, 4 gig will come here because it's disk1 and disk2 involved. If any of the hard drives involved goes down, your data is still reachable. You can still get access to your data. That is it. So the same thing applies to the strip and the span, the same thing. So the strip 2 is a space from two hard drives, disk1, disk2, to create span and to create a strip as well. Okay guys, so thank you very much. This is just the beginning of the second lesson. We will move on to the second part of the second lesson. We will move to the second part of the second lesson, which we will see how, when the hard drive fails, how Mirror is going to respond, or how Mirror is going to behave. And we will look at other configurations like shrinking, look at extension or extend. Then we will also look at how to mount a drive or a volume into a folder. Then we also look at something called creating on a virtual hard disk. So there are more lessons coming up in disk management. We are not done yet. Then finally, we'll use the diskpart command tool to also manage our hard drive. So whatever we have done, the diskpart will come in also to verify. Thank you very much. See you again. Stay tuned. Kindly don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and also like, share, and also please comment. If you like the video, or if you don't like it, you can also pass your comment. Or if there's any question that you want to ask based on the lesson, just put it at the comment section. I'll get back to you. Thank you very much.